the Arkle winner is going to run on Saturday.
I'm all over this Queen Gamble. I think she'll win.
Okay, so now we'll move on to Saturday. We kick off with a Grade 2, the Prestbury Juvenile Hurdle, where we've got Maydaf and Cheltenham Green probably going up against each other again. There is going to be a winner's penalty for Maydaf off the back of that £5 penalty. So there is a bit of a swing. Not 100% sure who else is going to go, but looking at some of the ones that are jocked up, it looks like Paul Nicholls, Blurking Deroo will probably be lining up as well. This is a horse that has got a brother only a couple of years younger, Path Through's 5-year-olds. This is a 3-year-old race, the juveniles, that's coming out and has been running recently and been running all right, to be fair. Built by Ballymore in a Punchestown bumper last season. So interesting one. I don't think much to the French form, but I'd imagine the purchasers know more than I do, especially considering it's gone to Johnny De La Haye. So I was pretty impressive with that Medjaf. I think Dan Skelton said he was a pretty cheap purchase from Godolphin. Wasn't a very good flat horse, but obviously likes to jump an obstacle. He said he's going to keep testing him at the highest level. Obviously, he has got that £5 swing or £5 he's got to give away to Cheltenham Green, but Cheltenham Green just doesn't jump very well for my liking. And if I had to be forced for a selection of this, I would probably say that Medjaf may be underestimated again. And I think that horses that beat horses, so he'd be the one for me. Is there anyone I've missed in there, Daryl? And if not, or if so, who do you fancy?
Yeah, there's quite a few you've missed.
For fuck's sake.
Yeah, obviously, just touching on Blue King, Deroo, like this has not been a great race for Paul Nicholls in the past. He's had loads of short price horses beating this, as well as the De La Haye family.
Mick Pasta.
Yeah, Magistrado, Mick Pasta, Hell Red, Roman de Sanam, Art Moresque.
Who's the last horse he won with? Hinterland or something like that? At the top of my head.
Who's the last horse he won it with? Far West.
Yeah. Oh, Far West.
Keldestan. Sorry, Keldestan.
Oh, yeah, it was. Yeah, Keldestan. Yeah,
because Keldestan crippled me against something else. Sorry, go on.
but yeah, like, you know, look, I went through the French form as much as I could. There's some nice bits and pieces in there, but I think you'd be disappointed if you couldn't run up to 120, and that might be enough to be mixing in the finish here. It did just look a little bit one pace for me. So I don't know. I'm a bit lukewarm on him at the moment. That Mediaf won at, as you mentioned, at Wetherby in that listed race, which was listed race in name only, really. Mr. Freedom ran out in that race, travelled all over Mediaf, and is a progressive horse. I think he would have beat him that day if he wouldn't have ran out. He was travelling really smoothly. I think he's very interesting. He's done quite well, actually, to win a couple of his races from off really slow paces. So he's got a bit of speed about him. He could quicken up well. Note Salute won this race. This was what I mentioned on the other video. Note Salute. So when Note Salute won this race, he recorded an RPR of 114. That's how I knew for most of the season that the British Juvenile form was going to fall very short of whatever the Irish threw out. So keep an eye on the RPRs of the winners on this race, because it does tend to work out well. Just to put it in perspective, that RPR of 114 was £16 below Kel Destan when he won in 2018. The only other RPR below 130 in the last 10 years came from Golden Doyen in 2014 of 126. So still £12 clear of what Noit Salute achieved. Milton Harris has got a scriptwriter in here, same owners as Noit Salute, I think. Is it? No, different owners. This is a horse used to be Aidan O'Brien. Decent horse on the flat rate, 102. Ran in the autumn stakes, beating 6 lengths behind Caribus. I was quite taken with his Sedgefield win. I thought that was quite a decent little race. I know it was Sedgefield over 2 miles, but I thought he was green as grass, and he will learn plenty from that run. I think he's quite speedy. That flat speed could really come in handy here. With a rate of 102 on the flat, he could easily surpass what's required to win this race, which I think is going to be around between 120, 125. Again, I think this is probably going to be a below par year unless something pulls a really decent performance out. But I would probably listen. He might be towards the top of the market. I've not seen no prices yet, just because Milton Harris won this last year, and people are going to put 2 and 2 together. But if he's not, and if he is missed by the market, I think there's a good bit of improvement to come from scriptwriter. So he would interest me most. A few flat horses in here as well, but none of the quality of scriptwriter.
So would it be confident scriptwriter, or is it price dependent, like you said there?
I mean, everything's price dependent, as you know, Dave. Everything's absolutely price dependent. But I would be disappointed if he wasn't going close in this.
Like it. Jamie, what's your thoughts?
I agree with Daryl, and both both horses, to be honest. Yeah, I backed Mr. Freedom that day in the Wednesday day racing thing, and he'd have won. He got bumped. There was 2 or 3 out by Medya. He was travelling all over him. He's getting £5 now off the 2 off him. I think he's definitely going to finish ahead of him this time. I suppose scriptwriter, yeah. I suppose what's putting people, and I agree with Darren about people latch on to Milton Harrison one last year. I suppose that people forget to put it off that it only won around Sedgefield and say, forget about that place. Do you know what I mean? And no disrespect to Sedgefield, like. But yeah, David, it's exactly what Darren says. It's price dependent if I'm going in on scriptwriter, but if I was having a win bet at the moment, Mr. Freedom, and then scriptwriter maybe as a saver, that'd be about it. I wouldn't be too confident, but look, I think Mr. Freedom will turn the form around with Cheltenham Green and Medjeff anyway.
Very nice. So it looks like it's a nice competitive race to get us off to a start again. So I will mention again, this is not for any like affiliate or money things, but the pools could be decent all weekend. We've got some decent field size, and everyone moans about it. There's lots of these races where there's good numbers in. The second race is another race with good numbers in. There's 26 that have been entered. We'll have to obviously see how many are going to go. There's a few that are doubly entered, but I think even just looking at some of the jockey bookers, I think there's going to be quite a few that do come in here. Anyone fancy anything in the amateur jockeys handicap chase? I will say before that, last year they smashed Strictly a Dancer, didn't they, for Christian Williams into 9-4 Fab, and it crap time. So this would be a race more for me that I would want to wait and see where the money's going if I was going to be that way inclined. Jamie, Darren, anything you fancy?
No, not for me, Dave. No.
I'll just give a good mention to Val Sheeder for Nicky Henderson. I loved this horse last year. I thought he was like a really progressive horse. I think I struggled to keep him sound. But it did disappoint me at how much of hard work he made it at Foss last March. Now, it might have been a case that he just wants deeper ground, because I think this horse stays forever. I think 3 mile 1 here, a stiff uphill finish will really suit him. But he's a progressive young horse. He's definitely miles better than 129. Whether or not he goes here and whether or not, an amateur jockey is going to be able to really get the best out of him, considering he's quite he's, how do I explain it? He's quite a handful, if you like, I think, and he might just need a stronger arm in the saddle. But Val Sheeder will be very interesting.
Fair enough. The ones, just to quickly mention some names for the sake of it, Brave Way, if Henry de Brommen says this over, I think she's got a bit of a squeak, to be fair, because she's coming in off the back of a win in August, and she was fairly good that day. She has run a few times over fences and been bit in between. She got beat by Champagne Super over odds on, and I just thought she didn't look a very good horse. But then since then, she's run okay. RPR's not anything to shout about, but potentially down like a little low mark. Who knows who he might get jocked up on there. And then the full opposite end of the scale, Bob Hope or no hope, Gina Andrews will do much better on this Bailey horse than some of the other jocks have been on there recently. Can jump a little bit erratic, but when she rode it before, got a decent tune out. But I just wonder whether it'll be susceptible to something with less weight, maybe. Done with that, we need to move on to the Arkle Challenge Trophy, because with the Arkle winner is going to run on Saturday, and everybody's going to 3 cheers for Dave is what they'll say. I'm buzzing about this race. We don't obviously know who's running yet, so the time that people are watching this, it could have all gone to shit. But Banbridge, I can't see why dropping back to 2 miles would be of any benefit to him. So bring it on, Banbridge. If you want to run, you're going to get beat, and potentially if you run in this and go well, you're going to screw your British mark. So if he was going to run, he was surely going to run that novice handicap chase. So I don't think he'd be in it. Obviously, QM being declared. Pentland Hills has got other options as well. I think that's going to run on Monday probably, and that's why it might go up against McFabulous, but it could come in here. And obviously, it's one at Cheltenham, so I'm not worried about Pentland Hills. Tommy's Oscar was due to run, wasn't it, at Carlisle, and then Carlisle got stopped, so now he's going to run it. So it wouldn't have been first preference. And I don't think he's that good, to be honest with you. And I do think round Cheltenham, he's not going to be up to it. Monmerel, yes, he hasn't run at Cheltenham yet. And yes, he was a bit wayward last season, but I sort of made my case with him for the the Arkle market before. And I know this is his first spin round Cheltenham, but I mean, providing he runs, but I'm buzzing about that. I want him to start. Paul Nicholls has done it before. Getaway Trump came there over fences and ran pretty well. It will be like quite a telling debut, I think, for him, because there's going to be something in there of some use, even if it's Glory of Fortune, whether it is Pentland Hills, even if Tommy's Oscar, he's going to run. They're going to run potentially to the 140s. I'm expecting him to make a much better chase. The Saints normally do, and I'm expecting that he's going to win in a canter. So I'm literally just completely and utterly blindsided by him. I would not be touching him in this race in the slightest for a bet. He is still 33-1 for the Arkle before this race. He's going to just start shortening up because of the fact that he's going to be declared. But that 33 top price is with Bet365. You can get a cash out. That would be my idea of a play in here, rather than backing him at 6-4 or whatever price he'll be. Potentially have a go on him for the Arkle. And if he gets beat, you better get most of your money back. If he gets beat, you'd have lost if you had a win bet. And if he does go and win, which he will, price is going to short and you sat on a nice little ticket for Cheltenham. I mean, I've completed the race. You guys don't need to say anything, but I mean, I'll let you. Daryl, you can go first.
Yeah, that's all well and good, providing you've got a 365 account that lets you cash out.
True.
Mine still lets me cash out.
Rail's definitely going to be a better chaser than he was a hurdler. 100%, definitely. By saying the same, but it's just the way he jumps hurdles. He's just going to be one of these faultless novice chasers, I think, personally. So I'm looking forward to seeing him. Do I want to back him at 6-4? Not really. I just wonder if he's got the pace, Dave. For honestly,
he's got the pace for 2 miles. That's the one thing that concerns me. I know we beat Adagio at Aintree that time, but I don't know. I need to see him, to be honest. I know 33 to 1 is huge for the Arkle, really, considering he's a young, improving horse from a top stable that's potentially going that route. I get that. I don't like Tommy's Oscar. I don't like him at all. I think the 156 rating next to his name is an absolute joke. I don't think he's 156 rated at all. He's picked up most of his hurdle races by carrying big weights in crap races up north. His chase debut was okay, actually, at Carlisle, but it was slower than the 0 to 115 on the card. So, and he beat the same horse, Geronimo, by a head, who he'd beaten over hurdles at Doncaster by 3/4 of length. I just don't see where on earth
improved his form. The only time he's come up against an actual decent field of horses was in a champion hurdle, and he was readily left behind by Adagio and by and Glory and Fortune when they turned in the home straight. And I found no excuses for him. He jumped slightly out to the right. I don't like him at all. Banbridge agreed. Don't know about the drop back and trip. I thought Pentland Hills was very interesting. I mean, look, we've got to see him. It was just a walkover, obviously, at Huntingdon with Ascon Risk pulling out, but we do need to see him again. But I mean, I wouldn't be backing him for this, but I think he's one of the more interesting runners in the race. And I thought Ganapathy at a big price was interesting. Jamie might be able to tell us a bit more because he's switched to Anne Duffield, and all of Anne Duffield's horses seem to have gone to Patrick Neville. So something's going on there. I don't know what's happening there, but I thought for a second season novice, 33 to 1 in a race like this was huge. But he's had multiple entries this weekend, and it's hard to pin down where he's going to be going or what he's going to be doing. But yeah, I thought 33 to 1 was big for him.
Day out for the owners, isn't it? If he's gone from Willie Mullins to Anne Duffield and then he's gone to Patrick Neville, must be, I don't know, like a cow at home or something. Glory and Fortune, we talk about horses that are like second season novices. Glory and Fortune did go chasing a few years back, didn't he? And was dog crap, and then has progressed from then to what he is now. Considering when he started chasing back then, he was 135 and he'd only just been beaten by Buzz in a novice hurdle. And then you look at him now as potentially a 150 hurdler that's now going chasing.
Well, you say that. I don't think if Buzz was about, I don't think he'd beat Buzz now. Again, I think he's another one that's been flattered for me a lot of the time. I mean, you watch him in that Welsh champion hurdle, he couldn't lay a glove on Effenot Fizz and Milkwood and Severance. I mean, I don't know. 143, the right waiting for him. I'd have him in a handicap hurdle personally, rather than go chasing with him. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, fair enough. But basically, Monroe wins and Darrell agrees it's your nap of the weekend. Jamie, is it your nap of the weekend?
I wouldn't be touching him at 6-4 anyway, but I think he'll win. Echo what you've all said, he'd be a better hurler than a chaser.
Right, the other way.
You might think I'm mad. You might think I'm mad. He reminds me of small. I am mad, yeah, that's true. You got that right. You might think I'm mad, I'll make a statement like this, but he reminds me of, I don't think he'll ever be as good as him, but he reminds me of what Paul Nichols did. He was an okay hurdler in his dirty up, and he started him here, didn't he? I'm almost certain he did. Yeah. Now, if he's in that bracket, fair play to him, but he's not going to win an Arkle. I don't think anyone says.
We're not talking about the Arkle, Jamie.
But you did talk about the Arkle with your 33 to 1 docket. If he wins the Arkle, there's something wrong with the horses in Ireland. He must have a virus in Willie Mullins, because he has absolutely no chance in an Arkle. But look, for me, I think he'll win. And if you want to back him at 6-4, best of luck to you.
Well, absolutely, because I would echo the fact that 6-4, like it's too much of a risk to take the price based on all those sorts of things. Like I think he will be good, and it's good that you've mentioned Azertiev as well, because he was actually entered at market raisin to run in the same race. So I was messaging Daryl saying he's got some more entries coming up. The ground's just been too quick for him to actually go and make a chase debut, but he was he was due to run at market raisin in October, didn't. Ground was too quick, and then the plan was to come here like Azertiev did, and obviously we know how good Azertiev is. He's going to win. He's going to win the lot. Monmeral's a proper horse, I'm telling you. Anywho, we've covered that race far too much in depth. And it'll come round to bite me when Monmeral flots, but never mind. Then we've got the Paddy Power Gold Cup. This is a race that I've struggled with. I looked at it before the sort of like declarations got in, or the acceptors, or whatever we call it. There wasn't really too many I fancied, and I actually started to write down notes for Beakstown. So I swiftly stopped making notes and just stopped looking at the race. So I haven't got a clue in here, but...
You sure you don't have a share in that horse and you're not telling us nothing?
God, Jamie, you've definitely picked something in here. You must have been looking at it.
Darren Carter knows.
Rodito, I bet.
Yeah. Darren Carter knows what I'm going to pick. Yeah, I can get Rodito to win. Yeah, it's Paul Nichols' only entry in the race.
That's a strong case.
Yeah, that's a very strong case. But the only thing is, right, I think he needs further. He's going to get a lovely toe into the race from Cool Cody. I think you have to take the form of the Grand Annual, and we won't fucking say more about that Grand Annual. With that form with a pinch of salt and a slightly away, I know you have to be up there. The rain that day was insane. Like, you have to throw it out the window. I suppose he form tailed off after Newbury, but he's had a wind surgery. I suppose the wise guy horses, he'd be back all the time at the moment here is Gala after running in the old road. The only other horse I fancy in it is Midnight River, because I thought he ran well at Stratford. Do I really fancy it? Not really. I really fancy Rodito, and I think he'll win. Getting back to the Irish horse in the race, I might be plugging a couple of holes in French Dynamite. He was second in Lismore Herd in the Sire of Birthday, but if you look back on all his form, he was nowhere against it. He's never going to be galloping the champs at DRF. He's never won left-handed. If you look back all through his form, he's never run left-handed. He's always kept the right-handed tracks. And then when he goes left-handed, it's not too great. So I wouldn't be touching him at all. If a lot of Irish would obviously back him, but I wouldn't touch him at that price, and I wouldn't touch him even if he was 10 to 1. So it's ridiculous.
Oh, it's a very strong case. You have mentioned Galore in there as well. We don't know how it's pronounced. I'm going to say Galore. Darryl, what did you make of his run at Aintree? Because if you're not going to mention him, I want to make you mention him. And then what do you fancy in the race? You must have a little bit of a short list.
Originally, I thought the run at Aintree was a cracking run from him. But then I kind of thought, I thought in that particular race, right? I mean, this is after Time Central, but I genuinely nearly put up Riders on the Storm, but I left him alone because I wanted to see how he'd run. Because I thought that Hitman needed the run last year when I was at Exeter. I think me and you both backed him that day in the Howden Gold Cup, and he travelled there, didn't he? Really nicely, really strongly. Looked like he was going to absolutely piss up, and then just fell in a hole. And I think he's a horse that is a bit stuffy and needs the run. So I kind of wanted to look at this race as if you take out Hitman, how well has Garlaw really run? He's bumped into a fairly well handicapped Riders on the Storm. Beakstown's only a length behind him. Do Your Job never ran his race. I think the race kind of falls apart if you take Hitman out of it. And so I'm gonna work on the basis that I thought that Hitman needed the run. So I'm going to take a dimmer view on that form as perhaps the market has now on here, because I suspect that the reason he's as short as he is at 6 to 1 is because of that one particular run. If you go back to last year in the at Sandown in the Henry VIII, Hitman was miles ahead of Garlaw, like miles ahead of him. He couldn't live with him at all. Now I know that was over 2, and this is over 2.5 on the ground, etc. But for me, I don't know how much more improvement there is to come from Garlaw, which sounds silly because he's only 6, but he's always been a bit. I always thought of him as a bit of a greyhound, going around those sharp tracks like Kempton and Wincanton and Wingen and getting a lead and stuff. I don't know if he wants a stiff track like Cheltenham, but that's my opinion. He's at the top of the market. I want to take him on. The one I kept coming back to was Happy Go Lucky, who's been off 581 days, and this may well be a prep run for the Coral Gold Cup at Newbury in a couple of weeks, but he's got a fantastic record fresh. He won its maiden hurdle at Stratford off back 328 days. You go back and look at some of those races, particularly his novice chase here when he won so well, particularly at the festival when he was beating only 3 lengths by Indefatigable and the Martin Pipe. Like, he's definitely like made to be a proper graded chaser. And I just feel that when you watch him run, he's got something about him that sets him above a lot of these other horses. And I think he's a graded animal. I genuinely do. Whether or not he's going to be fit and ready to go 500 days off the track is the question. But it's not like it was back then when, you know, a race fit horse was a huge advantage. They can get them pretty fit these days at home. And I just kept coming back to him. I found negatives with a lot of these horses in here. I didn't like Il Rodito. I don't like Jay. I know he won at Newbury really well, but that was a poor race and he's done nothing really, has he?
I know, but the wind surgery off the thing.
He hasn't had a wind surgery, has he?
He did. He said. I thought I read it somewhere anyway. I might be wrong.
Oh, yeah.
1 minute. Well, 1 minute. I have something here.
Nothing publicised.
I thought it was. I thought in my head. No, it doesn't matter. It's me. I think he just needs. He'll get the pace that he wants, and it's just. I think it's a tip in itself. Look, I know the form is shite. I don't think it's a crap race. I think it's a poor Paddy Power Gold Cup, to be honest with you. Right. I just think I don't know. He just has potential. He's still about. He's only about a 6-year-old still, isn't he? So five. I like that. I don't know what it is. I just like it. I just came down and from, as I say, a couple of months ago, I saw him in the bet like that. Yeah, he'll do for me.
Yeah. Right. Anyway, I didn't like the likes of Editor the Gee, who's running over the wrong trip, 2.5 miles. Shake 'em Up Harry's a horse I think is well handicapped, but for a race of this nature, I don't think he's well handicapped. If that makes sense. I think he sort of needs a weaker field, less runners. Yep. Mr. Fisher has got a terrible first-time out record. Nasalam, I did like last year. Couldn't believe they sent him back to Ascot. He jumps out left-handed. But when he was beat, do you remember at Newbury, when he ran at Newbury, I fancied him at Newbury and Pick Dory fell and then Miller's Bank, can't see it. That day, I thought to myself, right, that's sort of his ceiling there. That look, you know what I mean? That's as good as he sort of is. He's a 5-year-old. I don't see where the progression is going to come from. They ran the Carjack as a horse that's stung me so many times. Travels like a dream, and I mean, he even got beat at Weatherby the other day by Landrum. He traded 101 and running. He should have won that race. I just think there's so many negatives to a lot of these horses. I like Happy Go Lucky. Look, I'll probably be a bit harsh on Garlaw because I don't think the race is that deep, but. I mean, Garlaw, I think will go well. I think Happy Go Lucky will go well. So it's very difficult, Dave.
Yeah, I have it here. I just had wind surgery since. I was supposed to run in the Holland Gold Cup. Now he's gone back over 2.5 miles.
So they haven't declared it. Well, we'll have to trust Jamie rather than the Racing Post.
No. Mr. Mark Howard, who's the fellow works in Racing TV, Mark Howard, he said it. I have it here in an email.
There we go. Well, there's some information for us. It will crap home if you have this secret window. I'm going to put that. There's 2 up because obviously I'm looking from I'm not saying Paul's just to publicise them, but I'm looking at this weekend less about having some steamy bets and more about looking for some ones at prices that could go well. I think D Machine for Kerry Lee is a big price. 16s, I can see it still is now. Won the last day, he's only up £4, but had been 140 and favourite for races. So I think that's one that's got less holes in it than lots of others in here. Another one that's jocked up. And I do like Slate House. I know Daryl's going to hate me because Daryl, we both thought he had a bit of a chance the last day. The 2 mile 2 was possibly interesting, but
thanks for reminding me a couple of years ago about the Paddy Power Gold Cup, by the way, when it was balls deep and then when he fell to second last. Thanks, Dave. Yeah. Cheers. You love mentioning horses.
A couple of times he's running on soft as well, and I think the better ground will probably suit him. And I know he's a 10-year-old, but he's a 33 to 1 point, so he'll be going on my slips for sort of place purposes. I could see him, and you'll get extended place in this as well. But I think we've covered the Gold Cup enough. It looks a competitive race without anyone being really confident, bar Jamie and the mystery surgery. Do we like anything in the race after the handicap hurdle? I've got nothing in there that I want to mention.
I suppose Shearer is a boy guy, but I see here things been absolutely backed off the board for it. Back over hurdles, annual Invictus, 20s, now it's 6s, and Paddy Power. It's been absolutely hammered all day. I was watching it all day. After that.
I'll put that horse up at Newbury the other day, Jay.
Yeah, and he hasn't won since November meeting last year. Remember, it was a 2.5 mile race. Didn't even. I think he hasn't won since last year.
He's been crying to go up in trip. He was such a strong finisher in the Betfair Hurdle last year. I know it's over 2, but it's well worth a try.
After that, I suppose there's not really there. I suppose I see Saxia Classes in the entries here, but surely he's moved on from Guardian to Team Collins. I suppose he's going to have a look, and he's obviously end of year target is going to be the per 10 side because he was well back last year in the per 10s. After that, no, I suppose I thought Shearer battled well up the hill and Twig won again yesterday. Did Twig win in Kempton the last day? Was it Kempton on Monday? But after that, I suppose looking at the gamble, he's former on General Manuel Evictus, I suppose, but he's been short now at 6-1 instead of being 20-1 there a couple of hours back.
Yeah, fair enough. Darryl, so Aaron Evictus, I know you said like you put him up at Newbury, didn't you? Now there's some money that's come for him. Would he be one that's still on your radar?
Yeah, not at 6-1, no, not in a race like this. I think there's loads in here with chances, to be honest with you. I need to see the final decks. I think Imperial Aura is interesting. Back over hurdles, 2 for 3 over hurdles. Got a bit to prove after a few mistakes and that over fences coming back here. I don't know why I'm drawn to these Kim Bailey horses that have been off a while and I've got some shocking figures next to their name. But I just thought that horse it'd be interesting here. But again, this could be a run. This time of year is very difficult with big targets around the corner, especially for a lot of these like chasers that are running over hurdles, etc. You don't know whether they're genuinely trying to exploit a hurdle mark or they're prepping for something. But Imperial Aura is rated 143, carries 11 stone 13. In this Class 2 handicap, has been running in graded chases, rated 155 over fences. So, and was unexposed over hurdles, winning 2 over 3 starts. So interesting, but I'm going to have to wait, I think, mate.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of them. I think Sporting John was last year, and On the Blind Side was before. I remember a few years back, Thomas Campbell won it for Nicky Henderson that was smashed in the bet. And it'll be another one again. Like money sometimes does talk in these races, and we'll see how they go. So that's that. It's an intermediate handicap hurdle after. So there's sort of conditions where the horses haven't won in a certain period of time or a grade of race, etc. Is there anything in there that really jumps out? I know time flies by as a horse that's been on people's lips for donkey's years. And I know he won an order enough race the last day, but I still think of 122. He's got every chance of potentially running well.
Oh my God, please don't back him, Dave.
Oh, back him.
No, honestly, please don't back it. This is the most overrated horse.
He's the most overrated horse of all time.
That run at Fontwell was I nearly swore to them, was absolutely shocking. Not only in the form book, but on the clock as well. RPR of 106. Last 2 RPRs, Dave, 106, 108. He's run off 122, and you're thinking about backing him at 6-1 for this. Please don't.
No, I'm not thinking of backing him at 6-1.
You love him.
You love that horse.
He loves him.
I do love the horse.
Loves him.
But that's where we're at with this type of race. So there is nothing that I would want to look at.
He's another Beakstown.
Oh, no, exactly. Anything from you two in there, or shall we move on to quickly look at the bumper?
I see a man from well back there, the Henderson horse Wise guys. Let's beat Hillcrest in a bumper. He won at Doncaster last year, hasn't been seen for 300 and something days. As I said earlier, Dave, if he rocks up here unanswered for Tony Martin, I think he'd nearly get about £10 tax off the British handicapper. But I think he's been well in the flat all year and hasn't run since he won a handicap hurl in Fairless by 8-9 lengths east down by Brian Cooper. He's 10-1 here. If he runs, he'll be well backed, and I'll back him with 10s now, and if no cash out afterwards if he doesn't run.
I like it. So we've got a bit. Darryl, anything you actually want to talk about in this race, or should we skip it?
Nah, skip it, mate.
Good boy. Right, on to the mare's bumper. This is one I don't care if anyone wants to talk about it. We're not talking about it for very long. We've got Bonte that won the race last year. We've got Lucia for Nicky Henderson, who was mopping at races. I mean, it looks like it's going to be an okay race, but I don't think we're seeing anything too fancy in there. There is one that obviously will get people excited because it's Willie Mullins in the bumper. And obviously we know that, I think we don't know if it's definite, but Patrick and Bryony have their love affair. Willie Mullins is giving Bryony, if she's just come back and she from riding, gives her a little winner at Cheltenham. So, I mean, it's Willie's in the bumpers. That'll be short anyway, but be interested to see how that goes. But I'm mentioning the 3 horses that are going to be like the shortest price horse in this race anyway, and something, not always, but something quite often pops up at a price. Urban ITs for Nico de Bonville won it a few years ago when I was talking to Dave Cross saying I don't think Nico de Bonville was very good in the bumper as he rode across the line. And then the Glancing Queen won it at a big price as well. There's been Michael Easy as well, bigger prices. The Governess donkeys years ago, Fergal O'Brien. So I mean, it looks an okay race to watch, but I don't think we've got any worldies in here. Done? Jamie?
I thought Darryl, you go first there. No, you've not, Darryl. Good.
No, I got nothing. This is not my bag, really. To be honest with you, I just got to be honest.
I suppose Bonte come back after a break. Probably, well, that was the fastest from bumper last year at Cheltenham. That was rattling good ground, like, so. Form's not bad, beating top dog and all that crack. I don't like this Lucia. I can't look. One in the bog in Sandown beat absolutely nothing. Like, would you consider Ava Grace be a top novice, mayor's novice for Willie Mullins this year? Not a hope in hell, right? I think it needs the rain to have any chance. I was seriously impressed with Queen's Gamble, lads. I think if this rain doesn't come, I think it'll win. I think it's getting £4 off Bonte. I know I was getting loads of weight off Mullenbeg, but Mullenbeg is a bit of a head the banger. The other horse, Sage Renna, is one to come out and won. I think the way it travelled, I watched the race back to last day. If they go fast, I think, if there's no rain, I'm all over this Queen's Gamble. I think she'll win.
Well, that's a bullish way to end day 2. I'm going to stop the recording and we'll get it going again so we can get Sundays done, because we've talked for quite a while. So I'll stop this, send a link, and then we'll move on for Sunday, all right?
Yeah, boy.